she sees certain things going on, she's aware. That's why we selected her, and she can do a fine job, hopefully, in rallying us through the rest of the afternoon in terms of keeping us on point and keeping us on time. So we would like to again welcome back home Charlotte Otley and give her a round of applause. A daughter of East St. Louis. Thank you, Charlotte.
No, thank you. And it's always good to come home. And you know, I need to applaud you because you make coming home worthwhile. You make it worth fighting for.
Yes.
And you always make it worth loving.
Amen.
By your attendance today. So I personally thank you. It is my honor today to serve as the moderator. And you know, if you've been here before, I run a tight ship. I represent you at this microphone. And part of doing that is that I want the candidates to be front and center. So when you speak, when you sit down, we can't see you in the back. So please stand when you're answering a question, giving your introduction, and giving your close. We need to see you and feel you, because you know, we have special intuition here in East St. Louis.
Amen.
Well, what do we used to say? We can read people. Yeah. So we need to see you and feel you when you're talking to us. It's not just rhetoric. So candidates, please stand when you give your opening and your closing and your remarks so we can see you. Our photographers and videographers can capture you. Watch the time. Tony, will you please raise your hand? See her over to the left. I've been trying to get her over to the center, but she's comfortable. Okay, so Tony, the red means what? Okay, you have how much more time?
No warning.
Each candidate, there are 10 questions. Each candidate has a chance to speak for 2 minutes following Tony. So you want to be direct and brief. But we want you to open up and introduce yourself, because you know what? This is ground practice, because you going national. Everybody is looking at us and what's going to happen in this city and who our leader will be. So let's have a practice run of you introducing yourself to your audience for the position that you're running for. Let's start with our former mayor officer. I'm starting where I want to start, right to left. And please stand. See, everybody tells me.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I want to thank the East St. Louis NAACP and the panel and the council, and to all of you, my fellow citizens. My name is Carl Officer. I am a lifelong resident of East St. Louis. I live 2229 St. Louis Avenue. I have a business here at 2114 Missouri Avenue. I have served this city in several capacities as mayor and as a member of the East St. Louis School Board. Certain persons ask me, so why are you running for office? Very simple, I live here. This is my home. My training, my upbringing, my belief to the core is simply 2 things. Service, public service. It's what I've done all my life. It's what I'll continue to do. And I'm here today to serve you and the citizens of East St. Louis. I have no special magic bullet. There's no special plan for bringing the city out of debt. Just honest, hard work, integrity, and telling you the truth. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson.
Good afternoon. I'd like to thank the host and the groups that are sponsoring. My name is Darnell Thompson. I'm a native son of East St. Louis, 70 years old. I'm a baptized Greater New Hope Baptist Church, graduate of East St. Louis Senior High School, graduate of Stanford University, political science and urban economics. I'm a 50-year member of Kappa Alpha Psi fraternity. Why I'm running? I have a contract with the citizens of East St. Louis. Those citizens are the seniors, the adults, the adolescents, the teens, and the youth. My opening statement is probably to run for mayor. I'm paraphrasing from some scripture I read the other day, Isaiah 61, 1 through 4. The Spirit of the Lord is upon us because the Lord has anointed us to bring the good news to the suffering and the anointed, and to send us to comfort the brokenhearted, to announce to them liberty to the captives and to open the eyes of the blind. He has sent us to tell them who mourn that the time of God's favor to them has come, and the day of wrath to his enemies. And they shall rebuild the ancient ruins, repairing cities long ago destroyed, reviving them as though they have lain there for many generations. Translation: under my administration the first 3 years, I shall have an emergency.
Thank you so much for your response. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the Honorable Sitting Mayor, Emeka Jackson Hicks.
Good afternoon, everybody. Oh, you guys sound sleepy out there. Good afternoon again, everybody. Good afternoon. Thank you. It's been my distinct honor and pleasure to serve you, the citizens, for the past, almost 4 years now. I can tell you that coming in as the new mayor, I encountered many obstacles. I came in and we had to encounter generational relationships and a culture in City Hall. We committed to being accountable, we committed to being transparent, and we committed to implementation. Let me say this, it has been an awesome responsibility, but it's also been an awesome privilege to serve. But in serving, it has not come without its hardships and without very, very hard work. In the time that I've been mayor, we have had the opportunity to do something that was very important, and that is to lay a foundation. Because when we came in, we understood and we realized that relationships were going to be very important on a federal, state, local, public, and private level. So we have worked very hard during those 3 or 4 years to establish those relationships. Why? Because East St. Louis is not an island. In addition to us establishing those relationships, we have worked very hard to work internally to prepare us for the growth that will happen in the city of East St. Louis. But in order for that growth to happen, we have to stabilize our government. This is why I'm running for re-election. We have to stabilize this government. And we can't afford to go back and make old mistakes. Thank you.
I'm going to start with Mr. Thompson. What is your plan to get rid of the negativity associated with East St. Louis? 2 minutes.
My plan is to make sure that, my glasses, sorry about that. I want to focus on the emergency rescue and repair of all our city's 16 neighborhoods to correct our city's economic depression conditions and our citizen residents' their financial and emotional distress conditions. As we all know, no money, no peace. What I want to do is to implement a citywide redevelopment master plan, which was approved in 2016, City Resolution 16, 2008, the title Blueprint for the Construction of the East St. Louis New Millennium Economy, entitled East St. Louis Heights.
Thank you.
Can you repeat the question for me, please?
What is your plan to get rid of the negativity associated with East St. Louis?
Okay, so we started on this, and I spoke a little bit about it earlier in my introduction. When I came in the city of East St. Louis as mayor, one of the things that I realized we had a problem with was our image. So we worked very hard to rebrand and re-image the city of East St. Louis. We looked at owning and talking about our own story. We did the things, we held our town hall meetings, and that's important. Why is that important? It's important for us as a community that we come together. The negative images that have been portrayed, a lot of them have to do with the internal workings of East St. Louis, how we operate. So my focus has been, as mayor, to really work on those internal workers. When we came in, we looked at every department. How is the department operating? And we're still working on that. How are we business friendly? Because that was a major issue in the city of East St. Louis. Do we have the capacity to do business? So we wanted to make sure that we created the capacity to do good business in the city of East St. Louis. We've worked very hard to get to that point. We're not all the way there, but in order for us to have a good image, we have to be able to do good business. So that means doing what we need to do internally in every department. So we're continuing to work on that.
Thank you. Mayor Officer?
I think that question is really simple. You have to treat each other with some respect. I think you start off by treating the mayor, Mr. Thompson, and you with respect. There's no magic bullet again for changing the negativity. People want to be negative about the city. They're going to be negative. We have to start with a positive attitude. We have to start with a positive respect, one for each other. There are going to be problems. There are going to be issues. There are going to be situations where you have no control over. But I believe, as the Bible teaches us, that you love your neighbor. You care about them. If they've got a problem, you've got a problem. But you don't have to point it out to everybody. Finally, let me just simply say, I listened to years of comment, something particularly with the East St. Louis, the Belleville News Democrat. I can never recall a month that went by when they reported anything positive on a regular basis about the city. What we have to do is not worry about what somebody else is saying about us. We have to worry about what we feel about each other.
Thank you. They're doing good, aren't they? I mean, sticking to time, getting to the point. Go, guys. Now, here's one that comes up all the time, and I know you're accustomed to hearing, and I'll start with the city mayor. What goals do you have for generating city revenue?
That's a very good question. So in order for us to generate city revenue, one of the first things that we had to do when we came in, the city was behind on its audits about 2 to 3 years, right? So we had to make sure that we updated our audits. By the end of my term, we will have completed 5 to 6 audits. Why is that important? Well, in order for the city to receive the funding that it needs to receive on a federal and state level, your audits have to be up to date. So we've done that. Again, we focused on building the relationships. We have to have those relationships so that we can talk to the businesses that we need to talk to, and we are talking to those businesses. So it's going to be very important to make sure that we keep doing just exactly what we're doing. That's it.
Mr. Thompson?
What I plan to do is to create a new millennium East St. Louis Heights through emergency business and job creation activities. The purpose, commercial restoration, meaning restoring and improving Black-owned businesses that will provide quality goods, services, and facilities that our residents use and our residents own. To create cultural restoration by restoring and improving our public health, public education, public works, and public safety services, facilities, and activities that will provide the best benefits for our neighborhood residents, the seniors, the adults, the adolescents, and the youth.
Okay, thank you.
I often hear people say, well, I'd like to see this in the city, I'd like to see that in the city. It's great. I don't think anybody up here, anybody who's running for public office doesn't want to see new businesses. I don't think anybody doesn't want to see new growth, new revenue. But the hard reality is that nobody's coming to East St. Louis to build a plant. Nobody's coming to East St. Louis to build a new business. Most of the money we have spent in the last 15 years out of your tax dollar, tax income and finance money, we have given to people who don't even live here. They don't even have businesses here. And the hard reality, we can't count 15 people that live in East St. Louis right now that have got a job as a result of me spending millions and millions of tip dollars. We can't find them. They're not here. I've got two proposals I've been asking for 30 days. Let's pass a new tax on billboards. None of you out there own a billboard. There are 187 billboards in East St. Louis. We got 1% tax. We're not employed, and no person in City Hall, we can collect almost $2 million a year off the billboard tax. We can put video poker machines in East St. Louis. Washington Park, Gallatin, Centerville, right now collecting over $100,000 a year on video poker machines. We won't do it because we can't put them in East St. Louis because of campaign contributions to elected officials now. They won't vote for it because they're scared of losing campaign contributions from another source.
Thank you. Mayor, would you answer this one? These answers are so good, it's like watching a good movie. And, you know, I'm getting ready to do reruns already. Given the state of Illinois budget, deficits without raising property taxes and sales taxes, which of your goals would be first and why for addressing this issue?
Given the state of Illinois' condition with, I believe, a $3.7 billion deficit, we are pretty much faced with some of the same issues. We have a deficit as well. When I came in as mayor, we were in a $5.9 billion deficit, and we had to do what municipalities have to do, and that is to cut. Under this administration, we were able to cut $1.5 million in contracts so that we can save. And we've cut everywhere that we can. But what has to happen in East St. Louis, the problem is not so much the expenses or the debt, but the problem is the lack of revenue. So we don't have a choice. We have to grow revenue in the city of East St. Louis. We have to have economic development in the city of East St. Louis. But in order for us to have the economic development, again, I have to go back to what I stated. We had to do the foundational work first, like the updating of the audits, like creating the capacity within City Hall to do good business, like updating our website, like purchasing the new iWork software that we purchased to streamline the processes and procedures in the city of East St. Louis. So we have to make ourselves internally ready, like starting our new code enforcement court that we started as of January 24th, 2019. These are the things that we've had to do internally there's a foundational work that had to be done first. We want to see the sexy things. I want to see economic development happen. But I use this analogy all the time. You cannot build a house without a strong foundation. If your foundation is faulty, then your house will fall.
Thank you. Do I need to repeat the question?
No, I think it was about taxes, right?
Uh-huh.
I'm never for any tax increases. We're taxed enough in Illinois, we're taxed enough in the United States, and we're certainly taxed enough in East St. Louis. I listened to the governor. I've never met him. I've seen he was in town not long ago. And he's talking about a new gas tax. Go across the street to that gas station. See how much gas is over there. Go to Belleville, see how much gas is there. Go across the river, see how much gas is there. The governor's a billionaire. He's never looked at gas prices when he went to gas up a car. But you and I and our relatives and our friends, they look at it. Illinois cannot afford new taxes. East St. Louis cannot afford new taxes. What we need is better management. I'm not for any tax increases now, next year, 10 years from now. We need to cut our spending. Why? Simply this. You can't spend $20 when you're only taking in 10. It's just that simple. My biggest complaint with government today in East St. Louis, and I have to hit hard with this one. How did we pay one police officer $250,000 a year? Now, somebody wasn't watching the what was going on. How one guy made $250,000? You talk about accountability. Let's start there.
Thank you. Given the status of the economic conditions of our city, how do you plan to address the crime? Oh, you didn't talk. Oh, I'm so sorry.
You would give me the question one more time.
Yes, I will. Given the state of Illinois budget deficits, without raising property taxes and sale taxes, which of your goals would be first and why for addressing this issue?
Well, first of all, taxes is a burden. So what we need to do is generate new revenue. That's why I said earlier about commercial restoration in terms of improving our local businesses and their services. Number one, in order to do that, we need to create an advanced workforce and training army for the part-time employment, for the cleanup, repairing, rebuilding, and protecting our 16 neighborhoods and their infrastructure, which is the commercial, residential structures, parks, streets, lights, sewers, and so on. By doing so, we can build and grow 334 new commercial small businesses enterprises neighborhood-based. We can build 10 to 15 new wholesale mid-sized commercial enterprises, light manufacturing, processing, warehousing, and agribusiness, as well as to construct, rehabilitate, and renovate 3,500 to 4,000 units of housing throughout the 16 neighborhoods, which will be workforce-focused and traditional, as well as to build tourism-based convention centers, hotel complexes, to build sport venue parks and convention hotels focused on football, baseball, basketball, and soccer. In fact, I want to develop a stadium named after Jackie Joyner and the city of East St. Louis champions that will bring revenue from across the nation, the world, and address all of our sports and championships that can come here for a contest, whether it be national, statewide, or regional. We are the city of champions. We're also the city that can build itself with a master plan.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you. Given the status, this is to all candidates again, given the status of the economic conditions of our city, how do you plan to address the crime, poor housing, job shortages, and economic plight?
That's a heck of a question. Jobs, poor housing, shortages.
Economic plight.
You got to start somewhere. You know, I don't believe that Mayor Hicks, Darnell, Mr. Easton in his absence, I don't think any of us don't want to see a positive growth in East St. Louis. I don't think anybody here doesn't want to see East St. Louis have jobs and opportunity. The question is, which one of us is best suited to lead us to the future? I just simply suggest that, you need to take a look at what we're doing now. I'm going to go back to that video poker machine, to the billboards. Everything that they have talked about makes sense. But where are you going to get the money from? Right now, today, we can introduce those two pieces of legislation without impacting anybody's taxes and get $500,000 into the Treasury before July comes around. But ain't nobody talking about that. Talking about something laid down in the future. You can't do anything about poverty, you can't do anything about crime, you can't do anything about housing without some cash money. And the problem is that we don't get enough cash coming in, and we got too much cash going out.
Mayor, can you please repeat the question, moderator? That was a full question there.
Given the status of the economic conditions of our city, how do you plan to address the crime, poor housing, job shortages, and economic plight?
Okay, so let's start with the crime. The police department has partnered with a number of entities throughout this area. We've partnered with the U.S. Marshals, we've partnered with the U.S. State's Attorney, we've partnered with the DEA, the FBI, and there are a number of partnerships that are going on right now with the city of East St. Louis. As a matter of fact, those entities meet here on a regular basis every 2 weeks to discuss how they can address homicides and how they can address other crimes. As a result of those partnerships and those collaborations, in 2018, the city of East St. Louis was able to reduce its violent crimes by 42%. Now, what does that mean? We know that we still have a long way to go. But through our partnerships and our relationships, we are making an impact. So that's how we are addressing crime. In addition to that, I would like to encourage the citizens. One of the things that I believe that's going to be important is for us to create and redevelop neighborhood organizing. That's important. We have a few neighborhood organizations here that operate, but not enough. It's going to be essential that we create these organizations so that we can create an atmosphere where citizens feel comfortable being involved and getting involved again and being accountable for the community. I don't care how many officers we bring in here, we still have responsibilities as a citizen to watch out for each other, right? We've got to become
Thank
those.
you, Mayor. Thank
Sorry,
you.
I didn't see that. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, thank you.
One more time, the
Read it
question.
again, certainly. Given the status of the economic conditions of our city, how do you plan to address the crime, poor housing, job shortages, and economic plight?
Well, my administration, I believe that we should be pro-family, meaning no more East St. Louis ghetto living conditions. We will build a new East St. Louis Heights, Illinois. We will be pro-law and order, put an end to neighborhood terrorism by adult and teen criminals, and restore peace and public safety. We will be pro-business and create locally owned, family-oriented, neighborhood-based businesses, African-American business expansion, startup, and creation. Pro-employment and reemployment of our citizens to deal with the complete rehabilitation of our 16 neighborhoods through public infrastructure improvements. We will create, again, as I said earlier, a citizens workforce army to deal with the employment of cleaning up and repairing our cities.
Thank you. penalized if you don't use all your time. You can,
I had one sentence.
you got one more? Did you give him the red? Oh, okay. The blue is your 1 minute,
Oh, okay.
and the red is stop.
Yes, ma'am. To complete what I was saying in terms of pro-employment, I will be dealing with the recruitment of 1,500 job-ready, retired and active veterans, retired seniors, under and unemployed adults, and adolescent residents, and 1,500 training-ready teens and youth. I will deal with pro-health, public health expansion, life support services to relieve the physical and mental distress conditions caused by poverty, which I see as a public health emergency, and pro-public arts, humanities, sports and recreation in order to support our performers, our artists, our teachers, our technicians for business, education, and training enrichment.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, we're going to try something a little different. Your organizers want to debate. You know, we like to debate, but we still need to structure this a little. So I am going to ask one of the candidates a question. They can answer that question. Following their answer, the other two candidates can challenge them. You got me? That's going to be our style debate, which means everyone has to be a good listener, because when the person challenges, they will be responding to what they heard, not to something that we haven't heard. So they will respond to what they've heard. So our first question, which sort of has 3 parts, Mayor Higgs, and this comes from the audience, by the way. We did not make this up. Please outline your accomplishments as mayor to date. What did you not accomplish in this term that you'd hope to accomplish, and why? What did you learn during your term? And what are your goals for your upcoming term if you are re-elected? How do you plan to accomplish them? What will you do differently this term if you are elected?
So during my term, there's a lot that I've been able to accomplish. Again, as I talked about earlier, we've been able to establish the relationships that we need to have on a federal, state, local, public, and private level. We've updated our audits. We've redeveloped and processed, we've looked at our departments and made sure that the departments are functioning as they should be. In our public works, with our regulatory affairs court, we've established a regulatory affairs court, which is important. You know, we have all these derelict homes and all these derelict properties, right? And we're looking at them. I have to look at them just like you look at them every day. So we put in place a court so that we can hold these property landowners responsible for their property. We've been able to look at the different properties that we own in the city of East St. Louis. Right now, the city is investing money in the properties that we own on Collinsville Avenue. We're white boxing those properties so that we can get them development ready. We've established a relationship with the National Development Council, and that's been very important for us as it relates to economic development. They have helped us to create a fund called the Grow East St. Louis Fund. When we talk about investing in East St. Louis businesses and black businesses, a lot of times our businesses are not able to grow at the level that they need to grow because they don't have the funding. So with those businesses in mind, we created the Grow East St. Louis Fund, which is designed to invest in those small businesses who have invested in us. That's very important, right? So we have the Grow East St. Louis Fund, and without that, you know, I'm sorry, I have to stop, but thank you.
Mr. Thompson. Respond. This is debate. Challenge.
Well, first of all,
You can agree or you can challenge. It's a debate.
Well, first of all, I will agree with the mayor in terms that when she came into office, it was a very difficult situation for her to deal with the economic depression of East St. Louis. Where I disagree with her is that we need to do more than just have spot projects, when I mean in terms of different projects here and there. This whole city needs to be coordinated throughout all 16 neighborhoods. Again, we must rebuild our public infrastructure in order to have places for people to live, work, and play that are safe, businesses that are reachable, walkable, a transit system that allows us to visit our own businesses, as well as take care of our business in East St. Louis.
So are you agreeing with her or disagreeing with her?
I disagree with her that we have to improve.
Okay, thank you, Mayoral. Disagree, agree with what she said.
I'm not sure.
That's fair.
I'm going to tell you why I'm not sure. I think that the first question was talking about respect. At the end of the day, facts matter. Issues that we're talking about today, facts matter. I'm sitting here this afternoon. I'm looking at 11 contracts passed by the city of East St. Louis last year. 11 contracts never bidded out. Over $150,000 I'm sitting in front of me. I didn't buy this. Somebody brought this to my office yesterday. A whistleblower, I guess. Somebody wants to see somebody get in trouble. But I'm looking at contracts that go from $9,999 to $9,375. You mean to tell me all 11 of these contracts, nobody could do over $10,000? The reason they didn't go over $10,000 is because you had to bid it then. You had to make it public then. You had to tell about it then.
Yes.
All of this was signed. We couldn't contracts. Contracts with public relations. Contracts with somebody to take pictures of East St. Louis. You mean to tell me we couldn't find somebody with a camera, take pictures of East St. Louis? We needed somebody that wouldn't pay almost $10,000 to tell us how good we are in East St. Louis? Did you need your weeds cut? Credibility, facts, honesty.
Thank you. Thank you. Another question for debate. Starting with Mayor Officer. Why should the citizens re-elect you again as the mayor of East St. Louis? What have you learned over the years as mayor and a member of the District 189 School Board? How will you apply what you have learned if you are elected as mayor?
You have to tell the truth. That's the first thing you have to do. Second thing is that I learned that I grew up. I learned a lot of stuff being mayor. I was 25 when I first got elected. I'm 66 now. There's a big difference between 25 and 66. There's a big difference between being a father and having an 18-year-old daughter that's about ready to graduate from high school and had to be responsible for her growth, her protection. And I learned this much, that the biggest challenge that all of us have, when we're in elected positions, you have to have enough backbone to say no. No to the politicians. No to the easy way out. No to somebody who's giving you some money. I'm running this campaign out of my pocket. I'm not taking money from anybody, any place, because I'm going to be responsible to you. I'm not letting $20,000 lawyers, $10,000 dope dealers, or anybody else give me any money. And I'm being transparent about where my money's come from and where I'm spending it. There's an old adage, follow the money.
Well, today I brought with me also a booklet. And in this booklet, you can look at everything that I have accomplished. From opportunity zones to 157 streets being restored to, it's just a number of things that have, to Clark Junior High School being torn down. The problem that I have with Mr. Officer is I'm still dealing with the mess that he left behind. He had, the difference between my administration and his administration was that he was under a strong mayoral form of government. I'm under a council management form of government, which means that he made the decisions for 12 of those 16 years. He made the decisions. And when he left office, the city was in at least $50 million worth of debt. At least. Under his administration, we lost trash service. Under his administration, the city was not even taken seriously because of all the shenanigans. We cannot afford to go back to that. Relationships were destroyed. He talks about the likes on Facebook. Had he not interfered with the franchise agreement, we wouldn't have to pay for lights to be fixed at all. So let us be very careful about the decision that we make. I'm still cleaning up Mr. Officer's mess.
Thank you.
In regard to your question, I can only say this. I'm a professional political scientist. I'm the author of the new East St. Louis Citywide Redevelopment Master Plan, which as a volunteer consultant, I produced over 8,400 hours of volunteer work from 2011 to 2018. A cash value of $1.2 million at no cost to the city of East St. Louis. I also was the former East St. Louis Development and Planning Development Director as a volunteer consultant for 7 years. Again, I produced 8,480 hours at $1.2 million at no cost to the city. I developed a master plan which cost $2,400,000 at no cost to the city. I am committed, and I'm not going to talk about who ain't done what, who ain't doing this, but I'm telling you what I will do and have done in the last 7 years as a volunteer citizen. I am for my city, I am with my city, and I'm going to stop it.
All right. Got some energy going on.
Amen, Reverend Thompson. I agree with the mayor. She did have a lot of my stuff to clean up. Because I had a lot of Mayor Fields' stuff to clean up.
That's right. Yes.
I had a lot of Mayor Mason's stuff to clean up.
Yes.
And after the three of us, if we're ever elected, there's going to be somebody that had to clean up our mess.
That's right.
The city's never going to be out of debt. Let me take 3 seconds and just tell you about part of the $50 million you're talking about. $34 million was the Martin Luther King Bridge. I had to get Mayor Maynard Jackson to come in and do a bond issue for us that took that debt. So you take 34 from 50, now you're getting closer to where the debt was when I left. Then you take a look at the sewers, which had been collapsed. You take a look at the fact that sewer bills were $2 a month when I got to be mayor. In this very building, 18 aldermen, less than 14 of the 18 aldermen paid $2 a month on their sewer bill because they had some friends. The reality of it is this, Your Honor, I accept my misfortune. I just can't accept the fact that right now, policemen and firemen in East St. Louis who have retired, your administration has not paid the pension plan money. You collect the money from me, taxpayer, every year. You're supposed to spend that money paying their pension plan. You've been taking that money, hiring people, paying other bills, doing something other than being honest with the taxpayers, with the firefighters, with the police officers that are retired, taking their pension money.
Yes.
Mayor Bush did it, he paid all those bills. Mayor Powell did it, she did it. I did it. You have not kept your word to the taxpayers by paying the pension plan money alone. So let's don't say that you're not, I didn't make a $34 million debt to just the firefighters. We owe the police officers $12 million right now.
So let's be factual when we talk about the pension. I believe the pension was not paid, started to not be paid under your administration. Under your administration. And under this administration, I have paid the most that any administration has paid on the pension, with a $1.5 million one-time payment to the fire pension and a $500,000 payment to the police pension, in addition to monthly payments that have been made. Under this administration, we don't make promises that we don't keep. We went to the fire and police board, we told them what we were gonna do, we did just that. We committed to the monthly payments. And not only have we committed to the monthly payments, we've committed to negotiating on behalf of those people who need their monies. We understand that folks need to be paid. There are widowers that have been left behind, you know, we understand that. So this administration has been left to negotiate and really work very hard to try and fill the gap as it relates to the pension. We had the opportunity to work with the Vendors Assistance Program, which is a state program, to help us with our pension funding. But because council did not move and make the decisions early and drag their feet on that, we lost that opportunity. However, we're still working. We're still working to see how we can get our pension funded, which is the reason why updating those audits are going to be very important.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay. As you notice, I'm getting feedback moment to moment from the crew who are trying to keep everything on track and keep everything rolling and fair. So that's what's going on. In the corners, they're pulling me off and everything, and we're trying to stay in front of the candidates. Candidates, the AV people want you not to have the mic so close to your mouth because it makes you come across mumbling. What we're going to do is when a person speaks and answers a question, they get 2 minutes. A rebuttal is only 1 minute. And then the person who is being challenged has the last word, 1 minute. So we're getting these rules, you know, together, okay? Next question. What is your view on having a city manager form of government versus that of a mayoral form of government? Mr. Thompson.
Thank you. From my, can you hear me now? Okay. From my awareness, the city manager form of government started in 1991, I believe, and that's 28 years of failed achievement. You know how many millions of dollars we paid a city manager $100,000 a year for 25 years and get no results? The mayors are handcuffed when it comes to leadership. Like the mayor Hicks says, she could do more, but she has to deal with a council and a city manager government. The city manager government came in after Mr. Officer because they wanted to tie his hand. The mayor needs to be the leader so he can get things done, and I will do that, and we need to move on beyond that and get us back to the mayor who is strong, who will deliver answers, who is accountable to the people, and not to a group of people who don't like him, and all you need is 3 votes.
I agree. Let me tell you something. With all deference to the mayor, even in this form of government, you still have to have a council. You can't just do what you want to do because you're the mayor. Being mayor is mostly a title. Trust me, I know. When you have 18 aldermen, 16 aldermen, then down to 8 aldermen, you gotta have a majority vote on everything you do. So everything that I did in 12 years as being mayor, didn't do it because I was sitting in the corner by myself. I had some help, a lot of help. Some of them sitting in there now. Some of you know real well. the hard reality, it doesn't make a difference whether it's the city manager form of government, whether it's the storm mayor form of government, whether it's the council form. It doesn't make any difference. If you got anything that is dishonest in your brain, your heart, and your spirit, it don't make a damn bit of difference. What we need is accountability, integrity, trust, and character.
Mayor?
I believe that there are advantages and disadvantages to either form of government. I know that after Mr. Officer in '91, due to his administration, the city decided to go with a council management form of government. So it depends on the type of leader that you have. You have to be careful with that, right? The good part about a council management form of government is that it does provide the check and balance for you. So you have, with this particular council, you have 5 people on the council, 5, and the mayor is 1/5 of that council. With a strong mayoral form of government, the mayor has the ability to make more decisions, to do more appointments, and to also veto. So it does give the mayor a stronger position. But again, there are advantages and disadvantages to to each type of government. So it's really up to the citizens to decide what it is that they want. I have been able
Thank
to
you,
navigate the city management form.
Mr. Thompson, last word, 1 minute. It was your position. Okay. Okay, next question. What is your plan as it relates to economic development? For example, there's an abundance of land throughout East St. Louis, including the riverfront. What is your plan to attract business to the city of East St. Louis? Mayor, why don't we begin with you?
Our plan is 6-pronged. First of all, we want to look at the development of the port. We've been talking about the development for years, but we would like to partner with the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity to create a distribution hub, intermodal hub down on the port, right? We want to look at how we can fund that. We also want to look at how we can expand the Jefferson National Park from the Missouri side to the Illinois side for the development of our port. We want to develop the port. Then we want to develop the downtown area. It's going to be important that we develop and put in mixed use, mixed income development downtown. How we do that? We look at the Broadview Hotel. Right now we have a developer who's interested in the Broadview Hotel. An application has been filed. So if we can just get the Broadview Hotel or one piece of our property developed, it will serve as a catalyst to develop the other parts. So we have the port, we have downtown. Let's look at housing. We have to create housing. We have a number of entities in the city of East St. Louis who are developing housing. The city wants to partner with them to do that. We have partnered with the Housing Authority, and we were able to get the Choice Neighborhood Implementation Planning Grant, which is very important. In the United States, there are only 6 of those passed out, so it's a very competitive grant. The city of East St. Louis was awarded the Choice Neighborhood Grant for housing, right? And we're now planning with urban strategies, along with the Housing Authority and along with McCormick Barron. We're meeting with the residents at the Gumpers right now to discuss creating housing there as well.
Question again, please.
Debate, challenge.
I'm sorry. Well, first of all, I disagree with the 2 positions. As I said earlier, I was a former director of the East St. Louis Planning Department, and I developed a East St. Louis redevelopment master plan. And that master plan calls for $332 million over a 7-year period to rebuild all 16 neighborhoods of East St. Louis, including the downtown East St. Louis riverfront. The downtown East St. Louis riverfront has been a promise for the last 20 years. I've seen the plans, and they have nothing to do with the rest of the city. These developers want our land to do what they want to, make their own money, don't employ us, bring in foreign workers, bring in foreign anything that's not East St. Louis. We can do this under strong leadership, and I will do this as mayor because I wrote a plan and I stayed for 7 years. My planning office was closed. I was evicted from the planning department in my own city hall. As mayor, we have to build this town with East St. Louisans.
Thank you. You got a good timer in you. It's like you get it right on the moment.
He's
Thank
preaching.
you
He's
so
preaching
much.
today. He's preaching today.
All right.
Let me tell you something. I think that both Donnell and the mayor are absolutely accurate. There's one small difference. If you had $1 million, what kind of business would you put in East St. Louis? Where would you put it? On the riverfront, Donnell's absolutely right. You and I will be blessed if we live long enough to see any of us owning anything down there. When it comes to downtown, it's already gone. You can't find 10 shops downtown. I think that I have 2 areas that I'd like to see immediately once I'm elected next April. I'm gonna go right behind us, the Bull Police State Fire Department. I'm gonna float a bond issue for approximately $30 million to rehabilitate that entire facility to get federal prisoners that will not go to the county because the county's already filled.
Time. It's 1 minute for rebuttal.
Not a problem.
You're gonna get a chance to elaborate on that. You know, by the way, I'm asking your questions now. These were some of the cards that you've been asking, so I'm integrating and going back and forth so that I'm addressing some of the things that you're asking. But on this vein of discussion, what are your plans for creating a tax base to help the property owners? What's going to be that incentive? Mayor?
In order to create a tax base, then you have to create business. Again, it goes back to bringing economic development here. How do we get revenue to come in? If we don't get the businesses to come here, we won't have the proper tax base. So the more businesses we can get to come here, then we can get our citizens to come back through the housing, which gives us more tax base. With the housing, we have to create housing that will address the different demographics, single families, those who, don't have families. We have to create the housing for our people to be able to come back here. And right now, we don't have it, but we're positioning ourselves to have that type of housing. So.
Challenge.
Again, I challenge that in regards to, in order to improve the housing and living conditions of East St. Louisans, we have to include a plan to develop mass revenue. And the only way we can do that is not continue to do the old traditional, let's do this project here and that project there. We must have, and as mayor, I would declare the city-state emergency so we can be access to the federal government, the state government, funds that will assist you in an emergency situation. We are in an emergency situation. 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, East St. Louis is going down. And they're talking about how the people gonna get help. You're gonna get help when you declare emergency. So the governor, Senator Durbin, Congressman Boss can open up the federal and state governments to allow us to receive discretionary funds for the emergency situation. They know how bad we are, so they're gonna be the hard problem, but you need leadership.
Thank you. Mayor Officer. Challenge.
It's a rebuttal time, right? 1 minute. You can't ride to freedom in Pharaoh's chair. And quite frankly, I'm gonna use a good illustration. Right now in East St. Louis, we do not have one certified person in this building department that has the credentials to inspect your house, your plumbing, your soup, none of this stuff. I tried to get the city, I wrote the mayor, I wrote every member of the city council, I wrote the city attorney. I put a new roof on my house in June last year. I couldn't even pay the city for a permit because there was nobody to inspect my roof. So I had to go with my insurance company, and I went ahead and spent the $30,000 to put the roof on. We gotta start here at City Hall. You gotta have the employees that are certified. Don't send me somebody out with a badge around his neck who's my friend.
What Mr. Officer has stated is totally incorrect. Every code enforcer, every inspector that we have currently in the city of East St. Louis is certified. He mentioned earlier about issuing bonds. Well, you know what? You might be able to do that because thanks to this administration, we have updated audits. So with the updated audits, we'll be able to, when I get back in, to issue bonds. Thank you.
Thank you. Given the housing situation in East St. Louis and the dilapidating housing, what are your plans to increase the housing stock while helping to increase enrollment throughout the East St. Louis School District?
Again, as I said earlier, what we need to do is develop an emergency plan in order to deal with the reconstruction of our neighborhoods, as well as be about improving the educational opportunities. Not just education for our citizens and our students to leave East St. Louis, but give them an incentive to go to school, to have development of a workforce for East St. Louis now and in the future. Too many times I've heard, even on this thing about 89 blocks, get your high school degree and be an athlete and leave, escape. I'm here. I was an athlete in East St. Louis, a champion. I didn't leave. I came back home, and I'm gonna stay home. I'm gonna encourage our kids by giving them the resources, and our education department, the resources to provide that, and to help the citizens in terms of their neighborhoods, help rebuild them. You rebuild them. You be trained on how to do it. You can do it. We can. And we shall do it.
Thank you.
So one of the things that we've done to increase our housing stock, we talked about this earlier, is we've partnered with the Housing Authority. We won a grant, the Choice Neighborhood Implementation Grant. Currently, through that grant, we are planning with the residents in the Gompers area. The idea is to sit down, talk with the residents there, and create a plan that will be favorable for them. The idea behind the Choice Neighborhood is not just about housing. It is about developing schools, having schools, businesses, parks. It is a holistic approach to creating a choice neighborhood. That's why it's called Choice Neighborhood. So what we plan to do is, while we are in the process of planning and we have received this Choice Neighborhood Implementation Grant, we will be applying for the Choice Neighborhood Implementation Grant that actually helps us to implement the grant, which is a $30 million grant.
I don't think you have to reinvent the wheel. Any of you who've ever been to Parsons Place, you'll notice that Parsons Place is pretty clean. You don't see any cars parked in front on top of blocks. You don't see any burnout facilities. You see a nice park. You see all kind of amenities. The persons who run and operate that do a great job. Nobody that's living in Parsons Place moved from Ladue, Shiloh, Swansea, Belleville, they were East St. Louis residents. We want good housing. We want quality housing. We want nice neighborhoods. It seems to me I would hire McCormick Barron again and say, you take over the master plan. And first I'd start with West City, and I'd take Parkside. I'd buy every house out of the way and give those people new houses next year.
Thank you. And you notice, even though they can rebut each other, it's their choice how they're going to use their minute in the sun. So sometimes they disagree, but sometimes they take that minute to make a point for themselves. So we're home, we're making our own rules if it's okay with you. Okay. One of our youth submitted a question, and they want to know, what is your plan to address youth violence in the city? And how do you plan to honor youth voices and involvement in city plans? How do you include youth voices in our city plans? You know, that's a good point, because what we do today is definitely affecting them tomorrow, and to build population, we got to get them involved. So what's your plan to do that?
One of the things that I've done under my administration is create a group called the Mayor's Youth Advisory Council. It's called Mayoral. And we have youth who we meet with on a monthly basis, and they are able to give us our ideas. But not only are they able to give us ideas about what they want to see in what they would like, where they would like the city to grow, they also have the opportunity to be in a space where they are provided the opportunity to grow as leaders and feel safe. Let me tell you something. When you step out and you decide that you want to stand up and be a part of change in the city of East St. Louis, it should not be to where you feel like your own people are going to eat you alive. But you understand that when you take a position, particularly in government, that you're going to come up against some things, right? Even if you have the best interest of the city at heart. So my goal has been, under the Mayor's Youth Advisory Council, to create an environment where youth can grow and not feel intimidated by all that comes along with being a leader and standing up for what is right in this community. So I'm very engaged with our young people. I know that they are, for not just the future, they are our today. And we have to encourage them. So we do have the Mayor's Youth Advisory Council.
Mr. Thompson?
For our young people, I want to applaud you for being interested and wanting to be involved. As I said earlier, I will be pro-family. For you young people, that means no more East St. Louis neighborhood ghetto living conditions. We'll build a new East St. Louis Heights. We'll provide law and order to put end to neighborhood terrorism by the adults and teen criminals, and restore peace and public safety, so you can go to school safely, come home safely, go out and play safely. You can't even go down to the park. You can't even go to the skating rink where I feel. Under my administration, you have to feel we're going to take care of this. And that's why I said, first, I'm going to provide 1,500 trained, ready teaching youth to be a part of the rebuilding of their 16 neighborhoods, their future East St. Louis, so they can stay here, be proud like I am. You love East St. Louis, I love East St. Louis. Together, we're going to take care of business. Thank you.
I want to commend Mayor Hicks. Anytime you engage young people with support, and it should be admired. So I want to thank her for her counsel. Anytime you can take time out of your schedule, and I know what the mayor's schedule is like, and spend any time with young people, it's important.
You said it right about that, that's right.
And I commend you for doing so. However, I would like to see us, let me change. Starting in May, when I'm inaugurated, sworn in, I'm going to sit down with the East St. Louis School Board, and I'm going to work tirelessly to make sure that we open up every public school in East St. Louis in the evening for programs that will be operating. From being on the school board for 4 years, being mayor, I understand just because this day ends at 3 o'clock, we should have those buildings open so those young people have someplace to go.
Thank you. Question about the medical district plan without a hospital and shops with state and county input. How do you plan or would plan to revive the medical district plan with a hospital and shops with state and county input? Mayor Hicks.
When I first came in as mayor, we had the medical district that had been established, but the board itself was on its way to disbanding. So one of the first things that we would need to do would be to reestablish a medical district committee. It seems as though everybody benefited around us from the medical district except for East St. Louis. So I think that we need to reestablish that medical district and make sure that the citizens of East St. Louis benefit from that. Also, I've had conversations with the CEO of Memorial Hospital, and I've also had conversations with Touche Hospital. It's just a matter of them seeing the need for the market. At the end of the day, it's about the citizens demanding that we have services here, not only from the hospitals, but from our state and federal legislators that will help us with the funding.
In regards to our public health situation, as I said earlier, I want to deal with the expansion of our public health care system in regards to life support services that relieve the physical and mental distress conditions caused by poverty. Let me say this, when they talk about a hospital coming here, the reason they left, for-profit hospitals say, East St. Louis, you can't make a profit. So then you can't make a profit. They will decide whether you die or live if they make a profit. Well, at one time there was a hospital here that was a not-for-profit, and it took care of the people. I'm saying there needs to be a mix. But the primary thing is make sure through all of our neighborhoods address health problems, being able to go to health centers that are based in your neighborhood, creating doctor's jobs, dentist jobs, support jobs from other professionals in the healthcare system. We have to be creative.
Thank you.
No one that I know that practices medicine today is willing to invest hundreds of millions of dollars in a community that they can't recoup their money from. Just that simple.
To do over this time period is reduce the overtime. The overtime was an issue because of the lack of the number of people that we had on our police as well as our fire. So I would like to see more police and I would like to see more fire. And we want to work to do that, but we also have to be realistic about what we can accomplish right now as a city. We have to be very realistic.
In regards to public safety is made of police, fire, and emergency management systems or services. As I said earlier, what we'll do is declare a city emergency so we can create a workforce and training that will provide part-time employment. By doing so, I will be able to increase our public safety forces by appointed workers over the next 3 years. We must secure our neighborhoods and our downtown businesses. We must do it as fast as possible and as many workers to protect our time 24 hours a day, especially between midnight and 4 o'clock in the morning when everything goes down. We need so therefore, we need to create part-time positions to support our existing police force. That's why they have to do overtime. That's why they're tired. That's why they're ineffective. That's why they lack equipment. They need emergency help, and I'll give it to them.
Thank you. Okay, we're coming to an end. Did you have a rebuttal or anything? Okay, we're coming to an end. And let me tell you what's going to happen in the next few minutes because we promised you were going to be out by 3:30 to enjoy the rest of your Saturday. But isn't this good? Yeah. Let's give them a round of applause. They took the time to come in to be with us. And I think they're being open and candid and really responding to your questions, ours and the youth, and I think that's very important. Question. In order to make East St. Louis a community again, we need those who work and make their living in the city live in the city. What are your plans to make this a reality, Mayor?
And as mayor, one of the things that I talked about was the residential legislation. We do have legislation on the books that talks about employees that work for the city actually living in the city. However, when I came in, there were so many employees that had already been hired that did not live in the city, that precedents had already been set. I do think that we need to revisit that. I think that people who work for the city of East St. Louis need to live in the city of East St. Louis. Absolutely. I'm a very strong supporter of that. However, we also have to be realistic about our housing stock, right? We have to, and that's why housing development is going to be so very, very important. I do believe that just like we're building houses in Swansea and Shiloh and Edwardsville and Belleville, we can also build homes here. East St. Louis has plenty of property for people who want to buy homes here. But at the same time, we want to make sure that we create the housing. As I stated earlier, that like we're partnering with the Housing Authority to do that. And we're looking at the other entities who have developmental plans. We as a city have to create the atmosphere so that people can come back.
Thank you, Mayor Officer.
Good question. That same contract that I would take from the police officers, I would simply say to them next year, 2020, you have a choice of 5 different housing styles. Ranch style. Give you 4 different other options. And I would say McCormick, Barron, and the other developers, we're going to pay you the house note. We're going to make sure that the sewer bills and all the taxes are going to be paid for every East St. Louis police officer that lives in the city of East St. Louis. And we're going to give them new housing here in the city of East St. Louis. I don't have to worry about whether or not we got good housing. We're going to build new housing. They're going to be here. And you're going to know your police officer in your neighborhood. We're going to give them 5 different choices. They can go from one end of town to the other end of town. We've got plenty of land, as the mayor said. We need to start moving on some stuff. Quit talking about what we want to do. Let's do it.
Mr. Thompson?
In regards to having people stay and not move out of East St. Louis, let alone come here, the first thing we need to do is develop a living wage program for people to afford housing. Secondly, as I said earlier, we will construct, rehabilitate, and renovate 35,000 to 40,000 housing units throughout the 16 neighborhoods that are workforce-focused and traditional. When I say workforce-focused, if you heard the word all over town or in different areas, workforce housing, that means housing for your workers who live here. As Carl has said, people have to have a place to live. You have to construct that. And then we can have a residential requirement. Thank you.
Thank you. A footnote question before we go to closing remarks is, does it matter whether a non-African American plays an active role in our security, in any of these roles that we're talking about we're gonna do, should you be mayor? Is color a factor? Mayor.
I believe that in the city of East St. Louis, we're about 98% African American. But I also believe that it's important for us to be a diverse community. I think that all growing communities creating an atmosphere for diversity. I think it's old and archaic to think, and I'm all about, let me say this, I'm all about my people, their growth, their development, business development, all development. However, at the same time, and I believe that we should invest in us first. That's one of the reasons why we created the Grow East St. Louis Fund, so that we can invest in those who have already invested in us. But I also think we have to be open to diversity. not only in our staff, but also with our business dealings.
You asked a question, does color matter? Well, I think it does. I'm 70 years old. I lived in the last days of Jim Crow when I saw 3,000 non-African Americans leave my town because of my color. But that doesn't say that they're not welcome. But they choose not to. We can't do anything about it. But we can make our town beautiful enough, progressive enough, that others will say, you know something? I think I want to move to East St. Louis Heights. Not the old East St. Louis, the new East St. Louis. You're welcome. We didn't run out, you left because of our color. But we love you, as Dr. King says, no color barrier, just hope and opportunity. Do your fair share, work with us, grow with us. Thank you.
Thank you. Now,
I remember 1979. When I became mayor, we had 12 police captains, no police chief. I rode with all 12 captains. And after a week and a half, I realized I did not want to be the chief of police. I asked for help, and I got it. And I chose a gentleman by the name of Bruce Morrison to become chief of police. I must have caught holy hell from city council persons because he was a white guy. But he was the best guy for that job at that time. Right now, we have a white police chief in East St. Louis. I don't feel any unsafe because he's the chief. I think he's doing a good job. But I also know this much. There's a hard reality. Now they're talking about getting outside persons. If I was mayor, when I'm mayor on January 1 in 2020, I hope to be able to say to you, the citizens, under the new contracts, because they're going to be individual contracts, if you're a police officer that's certified in case of your free road awareness, you can come get a job in St. Louis for 2 hours a day.
thank you. This is an easy question, I think, and we're getting ready to then go into your 2-minute closing remarks. If you're not elected as mayor, are you willing to collaborate with the elected mayor for the betterment of the citizens? Mayor, you're mayor.
If I'm not elected, I don't think I'm going to have to worry about that. But if I wasn't elected, I would collaborate. While I've been in office as mayor, it has been my job and my responsibility to collaborate. I've done a lot of facilitating. I'm about partnerships. I'm about creating an atmosphere to where people are able to work together. I don't understand, when I walked into the division, the amount of division that I've seen in this city has been amazing. And I can tell you that the division has been our demise. Because people want to have power. They want to be big. For what? Power over what exactly? When our city is looking the way it looks. So this is an opportunity for us to create an atmosphere where we actually work together. So of course, I'm always open for collaboration and working with those who want to work with me. However, as a female and a black female, I've had a very tough road here in the city of East St. Louis. Because quite frankly, I've been involved in a political atmosphere that's mostly male. And sometimes people take issue with that. But we can't afford to do that any longer. We can't afford to do that. We've got to move forward. And the only way we're going to be able to do that is by working together, collaborating, embracing each other, and forming those partnerships that need to be formed.
Thank you.
Wholeheartedly, I believe Mayor Hicks would be the first to tell you that when she was elected 4 years ago, whatever help she needed from me, I'd be there. I intend to stay on East St. Louis on Cleveland Avenue. I don't intend to move my funeral home. I will work with Mayor Hicks, Darnell, and every one of you to make this a better place to live. I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to be here. And for the next 4 years as your mayor, I'm going to ask you the same question. Are you going to be available when I call on you? When I say I need you to come to a meeting? And I need your input, your ideas? Because I'm going to tell you something. One mayor cannot do it by himself. As good as I think I am, I ain't that good, baby.
Well, let me say this. I've had an opportunity to give my service in terms of the volunteer consultant, citizen volunteer consultant under the Office of Administrations, and the last 4 years under the Hicks administration. So yes, I cooperate. I have cooperated. And I will continue to cooperate. But I also need their help when I provide technical assistance. Not an indifference. Again, I try to work with the Office of Administration. I try to work with the Hicks administration. I was put on the code. But whoever should win, again, I will win for you because I'm a citizen of St. Louis. I'm concerned about St. Louis. I got skills to help. Thank you.
Thank you. Now is the time, candidates. You will have 2 minutes to respond to the question I'm about to ask you. You do not have to sit. You do not have to stand behind the table. You have perfect rights to woo us and get close to us and make us believe that you're the one. Question: why do you want to be mayor of East St. Louis? If you are already the mayor, why do you want another term in doing this job? Okay, may we start with Mr. Thompson. You have your 2 minutes.
Well, number one, I want to represent the hard working class people of East St. Louis who are often left out of the discussions about their cultural, economic, and civil rights and responsibilities. But secondly, I have what I would call a message. It says, lift up East St. Louis now. They call it in the city, East Philly, everything but home. They call it a food desert, a digital divide, a healthcare crisis, educationally and culturally dysfunctional, a riot, everything but home. They call it Florida Hill, crime corrupt, a war zone, everything but home. However, East St. Louis is my home. Hopeful, proudful, faithful, thankful, technical, talented, tough, true, courageous, caring, loving, protective, fruitful, a black heritage. That's my home. My beloved East St. Louis. Lift up East St. Louis now. Lift up East St. Louis now.
Let the church say amen. No, I appreciate your passion. I guess the preacher in me tells me that we ought not get caught up in Sunday morning experience. We need Bible study. You know, when you go to Bible study, you don't see a whole lot of folks. When you go to Bible study, you don't see the Sunday good meeting hats. You don't see folks taking pictures. But you see a serious crowd of people who believe. You see a serious crowd of people who are willing to study. You see a serious crowd of people who want to try. That's all God asks us to do. There's not one person in this room better than the other. There's not one person in this room smarter than the other. There's not one person in this room that has done something that's deserving of grace and mercy better than the other. But at the end of the day, we all live here. I'm going to be your mayor. I'm going to show you by my example, by my effort, by my sincerity, my love for you, that whether you vote for me or not, when I win, I'm gonna reach out to you, and I'm gonna forgive you for you not voting for me.
Marion.
So, I can appreciate the humor and the theatrics. We need to laugh a little bit. But where we are as a city right now, it's no laughing matter. It's no laughing matter. We have serious issues that we're facing, and we need serious people. We need serious people in place. I have the booklet right here. What have I done? Restoration of Hope projects. 3 of them. 7 businesses celebrated through the ESTL Pride. 5 opportunity zones awarded to the city of East St. Louis. 5. And that's huge, out of 7 in the southern region of Illinois, which will help us to attract investors and developers for housing and for business. Reopening of Ameren. Ameren could have went anywhere else, but they decided to relocate in the city of East St. Louis. You know why? Because of relationships. Because, you know, we can talk about all day long what it is we want to do, but it's about being about the business. My record speaks for itself. If you come to the committee meetings, if you come to the council meetings, if you come to the town hall meetings, if you pick up this booklet and just look through it, everything in here has been done and is verifiable. You can check it out. Clark Junior High School. Many people want to take credit for that now. Of course, everybody want to jump on the bandwagon. Now that the work has been done, but it was through my hard work, my leadership,